Well, good evening. It's now 6 p.m., and I just want to welcome everybody and thank you again for joining us. Tonight's topic is Who is Rich and What is Wealth? My name is Barb Peterson, and I'm the coordinator for the Living Our Faith Tri-Faith discussion. I'm a Christian and attend Peace Lutheran Church in Peoria, Arizona. We have three scholars with us this evening, and each one will give a 10-minute presentation. After the three scholars have concluded their presentations, you will be assigned to a breakout room where you are to discuss the presentations and how this knowledge fits into your life of faith. After 30 minutes, you will be rejoined to the main group where you can ask questions of the scholars. If you wish to ask a question, please raise your hand and I will call on you. But with Zoom, I may not see you. So if any of you see someone raise their hand, please bring it to my attention. Please state your name, your congregation, ask your question, or give your reflection, and please keep them brief. Scholars, please keep your answers concise. We want to take as many questions as we can while honoring our time. Once the question and answer section is completed, I will be having some closing remarks and will introduce our next discussion. Reverend William, is it Utke? Will give a closing prayer and our sessions will conclude. Our scholars will be introduced prior to and in order of presentations. Our presenters this evening are Rabbi John Linder, Imam Didmar Faja, and Reverend William Utke. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Thank you to our scholars and to the rest of you for taking precious time this evening. We will now turn to our scholars who will help us with tonight's topic, Who is Rich and What is Wealth? Rabbi John Linder was born in Buffalo, New York, and has a lifelong affection for his hometown. At the age of 46, John was ordained from the Hebrew Union College Jewish Institute of Religion in 2003. After 5 years in Chicago, John moved to Arizona in 2008 to serve as senior rabbi of Temple Soel in Paradise Valley. Locally, John serves on the board of Party's Jewish Day School, Arizona Career Pathways, and the Valley Interfaith Project. John is also active supporter of Jewish Family and Children's Service, Anti-Defamation League, Jewish National Fund, International Rescue Committee, and the Keno Border Initiative and Planned Parenthood. John counts his greatest blessings, his wife Nancy and bride of 38 years, their son David, and daughter-in-law Sydney. Rabbi Linder will now lead us in opening prayer and will start the presentations. Welcome, Rabbi Linder.
Thank you so much, Barb, and wonderful to just see many of your faces, see your names, and we'll offer this prayer. God of all people and all understanding, thank you for bringing us together this evening, and must say how thankful we all are for one of the greatest ambassadors for the Abrahamic faith, which is Azra Hussein. And God, please bless Azra and her family. And with the topic tonight, Who is Rich? May we all this evening come away richer for listening to one another's faith traditions and seeing, Barb, as you said, the common ground upon which we stand. Thank you, God, for bringing us together as we say together, Amen. So I am going to screen share something that I've learned to do over these past couple of years. But just so I don't get too carried away, could somebody give me a thumbs up that I actually have success? Thank you. So let me... I actually did not ask Azra or Barb. You may have come up with the title, Who is Rich? but it actually is a question that is asked. It is a rhetorical question for sure, from a piece of what's called rabbinic literature. The rabbis, after the Hebrew Bible was canonized, and all of the interpretations that follow that, and the question is asked, the Hebrew question, Ezehu Asher, who is rich? And then the answer is given. One who is happy with what one has. As it says, quoting from the Psalms, when you eat what your hands have provided, be happy and good will be yours. And as I was just this past weekend at a wedding in Ipswich, Massachusetts, and in the servers at the reception, there was this young man, Keith, serving just in the most loving way. And I, asked him, I said, first of all, Keith, thank you for serving us. And how are you doing? And he looked at me and he said, I couldn't be doing better because currency is love, and I am feeling that tonight. There could not be a richer man, he said to me, not knowing I was going to be on this panel today. So in that way, for me, really, it embodies one who is happy with what one has. And then it ends, this verse from the wisdom of our ancestors, Pirkei Avot. You shall be happy in this world, and good will be yours in the world to come. I am going to be, this is just one thing that I would invite you to think about, what is rich in this world, and I'm curious in terms of other faith traditions, the notion of the world to come and what we can expect in terms of being rich in that way. Let's see. So wouldn't feel right having a rabbi without a little Jewish humor. So here's the Jewish humor that is, I think, directly connected to this topic. An elderly Jewish man was hit by a bus. In the hospital, a kind nurse put a pillow under his head and asked, "Are you comfortable, Mr. Cohen?" "Thank God," he replied. "I make a nice living." So Bill, I so much appreciate you already, Bill, for this insecure guy that you are. You are responding to me in such a gracious way. But it actually it does make an important point, as humor does, in a Jewish answer, hearing that I make a nice living, and the value that is placed in Judaism, and nothing I am going to say tonight is exclusively Judaism. We do share so much, but I think we may see some different strands within our religion, how we reflect on, in this case, wealth. And I think I want to frame this as looking at wealth when approached in a healthy way. is seen as a religious virtue in Judaism. So wealth as a religious virtue. And if I may, Pastor Utke, I am going to set this up with a verse that you know well from Matthew's 19:24. Jesus taught his disciples, "It is easier for a camel to get through a needle's eye than for a rich man to get into the world to come." I think it is a beautiful, beautiful verse that I am borrowing, and we learn from one another. So I will follow that with this thought, that Judaism is well aware that money and wealth can corrupt when it becomes an idol. In that way, good luck getting into the kingdom of heaven. And this also is I hope you would agree, a universal temptation. In this way, wealth can be understood as a greater test of character than poverty. In other words, when you are faced with that temptation, how do we act in the world? And over our history, Jews are no stranger to grinding poverty. We learned firsthand that neediness does not encourage holiness. So I want us to be open to thinking about the importance of having a level of financial support to be able to provide the basics in our lives. And if you don't have that, if you are needy, neediness does not encourage holiness. And there is a Jewish expression. The Hebrew is ein kemach, ein Torah, ein Torah, ein kemach, translated as, where there is no flour, there is no Torah. In other words, if we are not fed, and if we don't have a roof over our head and the basics, then it's difficult to open ourselves up to the Word of God, Torah. And then the other way around, if there is no Torah, if there is no words of God, there is no flour. We need that nourishment as well. So there is a relationship there. And Barb, if you can just hold up with fingers how much time I have left, because I want to honor 2 minutes. Perfect timing. So I am going to actually just raise up one thing that is on this slide. Jews have been enculturated that labor, no matter how unglamorous, is vastly preferable to poverty. As one rabbi said to another, take a job skinning carcasses in the public street and don't say, I am a great man, this work does not befit me. You take whatever job you can to provide for your family. And for us, and maybe I'll just end with this slide, Barb, because what I don't show people, nobody will know. It was no accident that the calf in the Exodus story that Aaron, Moses' brother, fashioned for worship in the wilderness was made of gold. The calf was made of gold. And it's not difficult to think of names of wealthy people who made their fortunes on the back of others, unscrupulous and thieves, like Bernie Madoff. And needless to say, Jews do not have the market cornered on white-collar crime. So I think with that, and maybe just offering Abraham, our common patriarch, as an example of a man that lived with material wealth as well as spiritual wealth. He was blessed by God with everything. So on that note, being right on the nose at 10 minutes, I'm going to take myself off of screen and back to you, Barb. You're muted, Barb.
Thank you so much. I think it was, I liked some of the points that you brought out, that the golden calf was made out of gold, and that's our idol sometimes. So our next presenter is the Sheikh Didmar Faja, and he is currently the Imam of the United Islamic Center of Arizona in Glendale, Arizona. He is the founder and director of the Greenway Academy, an Islamic school co-located with the UICA, and founder and director of 2 Islamic centers in Mexico, La Comunidad Musulmana del Sonoro. My Spanish is horrible, so excuse me. And La Comunidad Musulmana de Durango. Sheikh Didmar is an active participant in and organizer of multi-faith activities in the Phoenix metropolitan area. The focus of his work is teaching traditional Islam. He particularly enjoys training students in the art of Quranic recitation and is the founder of the Arizona's annual Quran competition. Sheikh Faja completed his secondary education in Istanbul, Turkey. After moving to the United States in 1999, he completed his post-secondary education and earned a bachelor's in Islamic studies. Later, he completed his Master of Divinity in Islamic chaplaincy from Bayan Graduate School. His studies have focused in Islamic speculative and traditional knowledge. He is the author of Express the Gifts of You, Your Lord in 2012, an edited anthology of Albanian language sermons delivered on various Islamic topics, and commentary on the 42 prophetic statements in 2014. He has published articles in various Islamic topics in several magazines and newspapers in the United States and Albania. Sheikh Faja previously served as the Imam of the Albanian American Islamic Center of Arizona, taught Quran and Islamic studies at the Arizona Cultural Academy. He is a member of the Arizona Police Reports. He is fluent in Albanian, English, Arabic, and Turkish. Welcome, Imam Faja.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you. And thank you so much for organizing this great event and very important event to not only have people understand about the importance of being rich and how it is viewed from one particular religion, but from different traditions, that enriches our understanding, and it makes us get closer to each other when we understand each other's traditions. So I will share the screen. I'm sure that we're going to present for, what's the time, Barb? You're muted.
10 minutes.
Can you say it again?
10 minutes.
10 minutes. Okay, cool. So we have 10 minutes, and then after that, there's going to be questions and answers, I believe, right?
We have one more presenter after you. Then there will be a 30-minute breakout session, and then we'll come back to the main group for question and answers.
All right. Thank you. So let me start, right? It says it's disabled, host disabled participant screen sharing. Is there a way how I can get the permission to share? Yeah. Okay, cool.
Okay.
But I think you need to probably stop the sharing. Let me see if this works. All right. Are you guys able to see the new screen?
Yes.
Excellent.
Yes.
All right. So, in the name of God, the most merciful, the beneficent, I praise him as he deserves to be praised, and I ask him to send his peace and blessings upon all of his prophets, messengers, who are sent as guidance for the humanity. And the concept of money, being poor or being rich, is a very important concept to be well understood in our religion, because it has definitely a strong impact in society, and it can actually either break a society or make things work in society. I believe many issues that we face nowadays, and issues that we have been facing before as well, are strongly connected to the way how we view the wealth, and also the way how we work with the wealth. I believe that Islam has a very unique way, balanced way, and a fair way in not only understanding the concept of wealth, but also in terms of distributing it. In other words, what to do with it. It has a very unique way in giving some very practical suggestions. And as a matter of fact, it is also the fact in Islam that it makes it not just something that is voluntarily to give it to the others, but it makes it mandatory to give it. And a person who does not give it when the person is qualified to give it, then can be a sinful in the eyes of God. So it goes into such extents. And there is a term for it. It's called zakat. Zakat is one of the 5 pillars of Islam that mandates the person who has gathered for the entire year a minimum amount of wealth, which could be in dollars, bank account that he has, whether it is savings or check-ins, or she has, whether it's savings or check-ins, or any other form of possessing that minimum amount, which goes by the gold or silver. For example, it would be approximately $5,000 that hasn't been decreased. That person must give 2.5% of that wealth to those who are zakat recipient. A similar idea or a similar mandate goes for those who do possess land, or for those who do possess businesses, or for those who possess even cattle, or let's just say gold, silver, these other types of wealth. So they need to give 2.5% out of it to the people that I'm going to share with you right now. These are the categories. The alms tax is only for the poor and the needy. For those employed to administer it, for those whose hearts are attracted to faith, for freeing slaves, for those in debt, for Allah's cause, and for the needy travelers. This is an obligation from Allah, and Allah is all-knowing, all-wise. So as we can see, according to this verse of the Quran, giving the zakat, it is a must. Now, going back to the concept of money, or the concept of wealth, because often we reduce it to money because that's the main thing that people possess nowadays. But when it comes to the concept of wealth, we are instructed from the beginning of the Quran that wealth is not generated actually by us. It is not us who enrich ourselves or enrich other people, but the real source of wealth, it is God. He is the one who provides whomsoever he wishes wealth. There is one verse that I'm going to go over very quickly right here. As I mentioned to you, from the beginning of the Quran, this is the 2nd chapter that starts from Alif Lam Mim. These are 3 letters. And then right after that, this is the book, there is no doubt about it, a guide for those mindful of God. And then right after that, it says, those who believe in the unseen. So again, what qualifies these people to be believers? Well, number one, they believe in the unseen. And number two, they establish the prayer. And number three, they donate from what we have provided for them. In other words, here, you are donating not what you have really generated, because it is somebody else who was generous to you and provided for you that wealth in whatever form it is. So you are actually distributing that from us, from our sources. Now, why is this so unique, this understanding for a believer? And why does it make a huge difference in society? Because if I have it, I know that this is from God and He wills me to have it. And if it is God's wealth, then it would be easier for me to distribute it to the others and help those who are in need. And the other point, which is also fascinating, is that if I lose it, I know that it is not meant for me to have it. Otherwise, my Creator would have given me if it is meant for me to have that. I'm saying this because often people, because of them not having this concept, they can easily end up having depression, different types of anxieties, blaming themselves, blaming other people, because, hey, why I didn't work so hard in order to achieve this much wealth, or in order to, how did I lose this, or what happened? But when you know that this is not in your control, yes, you have to do your homework in attaining wealth. And definitely the Prophet, peace be upon him, Prophet Muhammad, he says, يَدُ الْعُلْيَا خَيْرٌ مِنَ الْيَدِ السُّفْلَى. The upper hand is better than the lower hand. I'm relating this to also Rabbi John that mentioned earlier, talk from the Jewish tradition, that it is very important for somebody to look to enrich himself or herself, and not to be in a state where you just put your hand out there and ask people. So Prophet says that the given hand is much higher than the hand that just says, give me. But sometimes people are not fortunate enough, whether it is because of education, whether it is because of sicknesses that they have, whether it is because of the different challenges that they are facing in life. Whatever the case may be, even though they're doing their homework, but they're not able to attain that, to attain more wealth, they should be also satisfied within themselves and believe that, what, I have done my best and this is what I have. Still, this is a gift from God, whatever I have. So again, going with that in mind, it helps us set ourselves. I'm sorry?
1 minute.
Okay. Yeah, it helps us set ourselves for the good work in society, as I said. Then the other verses right here would be al-mal wal-banuna zinatul hayat ad-dunya. Wealth and children are the adornment of this worldly life, but the everlasting good deeds are far better with your Lord in reward and in hope. So we can understand from this verse as well that yes, the wealth is important. Children are also important in this world. However, what's more important than all of these is what gives you a value, what makes you a valued individual in the eyes of God. And that is, if you perform these righteous deeds, if you perform these good deeds, this is what's going to better yourself in the hereafter. And this is the last thing that I'm going to mention. This is another verse in the Quran that talks about actually having a trade with God. O you who believe, O believers, shall I guide you to an exchange? And if you want to be more technical in the Arabic language, the word tijara, it stands for a transaction, a business transaction where you buy and sell. So shall I guide you to an exchange that will save you from the painful punishment. Like, in other words, you give me something and I'll give you something. And God is calling people, calling believers to give something, and they will receive something in return. So he says that number one is that you have faith in God and his messenger. And number two, strive in the cause of God in different forms, with your wealth and your lives. In other words, you have to give, because this is a part of that striving, and striving has the greatest rewards. And your lives as well, that you do your best, to give from yourself. That is the best from you if you only knew. And there is a lot more. I also prepared a very a short story about Jesus, actually, that we have in our own books. In our own Islamic books, that is very interesting, the way how he talks about wealth. And it's an interesting story, actually, with other people involved as well, how they lose their wealth and they end up losing their lives because of that. But maybe throughout the questions, I might use the time later on. But I hope this is a good understanding of how wealth is perceived in Islam and how God wants the believers to work with their wealth. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Our next speaker is the Reverend William Bill Utke. His preferred pronouns are he, him, his, and he is a pastor and teacher at Desert Garden United Church of Christ in Sun City, West Arizona, where he began serving in September 2021. He and his wife, Reverend Ann Utke, relocated to Arizona after 2 decades in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. In addition to Milwaukee and this area, he has lived in southern and central Illinois and southeast Michigan. Reverend Utke briefly experienced living in intentional community on the island of Hawaii. In 1989, Reverend Utke graduated from McMurray College, which was in Jacksonville, Illinois, but has since closed its doors several years ago. At Mac, he received a dual degree in social work and psychology. In 1992, he completed a Master of Divinity degree in Eden Theological Seminary near St. Louis, Missouri. Reverend Utke served twice on the U.S. Senators Elections Steering Committee, as well as multiple regional and national communities of the United Church of Christ, but says his greatest love is serving God in the local church. I wish to welcome you, Reverend Bill Utke.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Barb. Thank you to my other panel scholars today for the deep wisdom you both have already shared. I'll make an attempt to add a little bit to it from our tradition. And thank you, everyone, for joining us, taking time out of your evening to be here. I appreciate it very much. As Christians, we learn we're created to love people and use things, not love things and use people. And for me, that lesson was reinforced by my parents and grandparents as they demonstrated that the value of wealth lay not in its ability to buy a lot of new things, but in its ability to build relationship, to support social justice and peace efforts, and simply to help others. In addition, for our family, my father was also a pastor. The offering time in worship was a very important time. Even as a very young child, I was handed a $1 bill to put into the offering plate alongside my family's contribution. But for our purposes this evening, I want to quickly highlight 2 of the Christian faith stories through which I believe we receive some perspective and understanding about riches and true wealth. The first is a story in the Gospel of Matthew, and Jesus offers this lesson as part of a long list of cautions that he is giving to his disciples. But he offers this one: do not store up for yourself treasures on earth, where moth and rust consume and thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust consumes, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. For Christianity, as for many faiths, I'm sure, one of the central focuses is using that language of the heart. And heart language represents our true allegiance, the source from which our words and deeds spring forth, kind of the very center of our being and foundation of our living. So in this way, in one way, Christians are wealthy when our heart is focused on Christ and on the God who loves everyone. The second story I'll quickly reference, many Christians call the widow's mite, but a modern version goes this way. Just then, Jesus looked up and saw rich people dropping large offerings in the collection plate. Then he saw a poor widow put in her last 2 pennies. And he said to those with him, the plain truth is that this widow has given by far the largest offering today. All these others made offerings that they will never miss, but she gave extravagantly of what she could not afford. She gave her all. A trait of material wealth, as we all know, is it can become very consuming of us. We worry if we have enough. We worry if it's well protected. We visit someone else's house and feel pressure because their cabinets are newer or their things are more expensive than ours. And sometimes we feel pressure to purchase newer items. It just kind of can consume our time and attention, leaving less time for us to focus on our spiritual life and on God. And while great material wealth does allow us to make a difference for others, rarely does a wealthy person give in a way that makes a difference in themselves. Maybe you've heard that old saying, give until it hurts. Well, I think Jesus, through the story of the widow and other sayings that he has offered and teachings, is saying something else. He's sharing her as an example of how we can give until it heals. Give in a way that empties us a little bit, creating some space within us for God to take up residence in a much deeper place within, and making it more clear that we depend upon God and not ourselves. And since God is the giver of every good and perfect gift, whatever we have is not ours anyway. And thankfully, there's no mortgage or taxes or rent in heaven. So I would suggest that for a Christian, we don't necessarily become wealthy because of our material belongings or financial accounts. We're wealthy when we demonstrate that we are intimately connected to God, in good relationship with loved ones and neighbors, and seeking new and old ways alike to love the outcast and the stranger and the foreigner and the enemy. And when we make it clear that God is number one in our life. One author has said, every time we get paid, we are given a test. And so for Christians, giving becomes a primary antidote to greed and idolatry, and it bursts any illusion we have of autonomy, that we can take care of everything ourselves. There are 4 simple banners that hang in our worship space at Desert Garden United Church of Christ. And they say simply, we love, we care, we share, and we serve. We think of them as a vision statement, but in a way, they say something about our understanding of wealth. We become wealthier as we invest in what is lasting, in that which is of infinite value instead of that which is temporary and untrustworthy. But there's a caution in this. Giving can be tricky business. For Christians, giving is never one-way charity. Oh, here, you poor person, aren't I wonderful for being generous enough to help you? That's not the idea at all. Instead, we want to recognize that each person is rich in their own way and poor in other ways, and we all need the gifts that each other has to offer. So true Christian wealth should work to diminish the gaps between rich and poor and meek and strong, the gaps among stranger, enemy, and friend. We're rich when we shrink the space between hungry and fed, and the haves and the have-nots. And I think that Jesus believed so strongly in that equalizing characteristic of being wealthy in Christ that he made it the foundation stone of his preaching about God's kingdom. In Luke's gospel, in fact, he says, "Blessed are the poor, for yours is the kingdom of God. Blessed are you who weep now, for you will laugh. Blessed are you who hunger now, for you will be satisfied." And those are utterly crazy words if we define wealth as being about buying and owning things. I want to close with a quick story of a longtime church member and proud grandfather. He was standing up front one Sunday with his family for the baptism of his baby granddaughter. An infant from another family new to the congregation was also being baptized at the service, and following the service, the two families were intermingled at the front of the church as they took turns taking pictures. At one point, the mother from the new family needed to get some things out of her bag, and she handed her baby to the grandfather from the other family. Church members began to comment kindly on the grandfather with the baby, and he found himself saying several times, "Oh, no, 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 this one is not mine. I'm just holding him for a few minutes." But Monday morning, that grandfather came to see his pastor, and he said, "I want to change my will and include the church." The pastor, pleasantly surprised, asked, "What brought about this decision?" And the older man's eyes grew moist as he said, "Yesterday, when I was holding that baby from the other family, I kept telling people he was not mine. But then it dawned on me that he was a part of my family, my church family. And I've been a member of this church for more than 40 years. And in God's eyes, I'm a grandfather to more than just my own offspring and grandchildren. I've taken care of my own children with my will, but I realized I need to provide for the children of the church. So I want to divide my estate and leave a part to the church so it can continue to serve God's children." I think true Christian wealth is about building bridges across divides, working and praying for justice and peace, focusing on eternal things, and putting God first. And we try to put all of our gifts in service of those aims. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Reverend Utke. Appreciate that. Now is the time for our breakout discussions. We will now leave our main session and rejoin in breakout rooms for 30 minutes. If your group does not have a discussion leader, I would appreciate if you or someone else in your group would lead the discussion. Before we break out, here are some questions to aid you in your discussion. So there's no need to memorize them or remember them. You can come up with your own, but this is just something to help you get the conversation started. So what does your faith have to say about wealth? What are some of the major purposes of wealth? Is there more than one type of wealth? If so, in order of importance, how would you rank them and why? Is wealth a blessing from God? If so, how? How do you think God would want us to use our wealth? And can the pursuit of wealth enhance or detract from our spiritual path? How? Feel free to bring up any other questions or insights as well, and we will now be sent to our groups.
You can unmute now. Yes. Oh, yeah, we go. Oh, all right.
Okay, we're back to the main group, and I was wondering if anyone has any questions of our scholars or any reflections from your discussion group that you would like to share. I can't see everybody, so if you got something, why don't you just, ask?
I can add.
Absolutely.
All right. Okay, our group, thank God, it has a 3 faiths in it, and we use some of the questions that you asked in the beginning, like what's the purpose of wealth, and everybody shared his idea about that. It looks like the purpose is giving. That's we get it to give it away more than to satisfy ourselves. Of course, to live happy, to live comfortable, but being comfortable is have degrees. I mean, what I'm comfortable with is me. You may not share it with me, and anybody doesn't. But we have to be. Then the bottom line is to be contented. Is to be contented with what you have, because this is the biggest treasure you have. I mean, so we share that somebody changed his son changed his job, and it was not because just the money, because he wants better atmosphere at the work. And so the having money is not the goal of being happy at your in this life, which is a short period. So that's one thing. And then what does money bring happiness? Everybody agreed, and Stan is the one who mentioned that just the fact when you're giving money and helping the needy, or helping somebody from his uncomfortable life, or help them get heart transplant or something, gives you the biggest satisfaction. Because that is, the satisfaction you get by giving is, this is why we have the money, the purpose. And another person said that this life is like being in a hotel, which is you sit just to be comfortable, but you're going to move on and go to another place where it is permanent, and that's what counts. So the goal of having money, as we mentioned, that it's not ours to stay with us, but it is passing by us. And if we enrich the idea in our children of being satisfied with whatever important, and then the money is to help, that's what everybody agreed on.
Well, thank you so much for your reflection.
Thank you.
I would like to ask the clergy, and it doesn't make any difference who answers, but do you think that humans are hardwired to be generous?
Oh. I think it depends on your family, what you're taught.
Not getting an answer.
Bill, you want to take a swing at it?
I don't know. It's a really great question. I do think there's some socialization, but I wonder about the so-called genetics of giving. I think compassion is pretty natural. I think that we see another hurting, and we have that desire to help. And so maybe in a way, through compassion, there is some sense that it's hardwired in us. But boy, does the world both support and challenge that.
Thank you. Anybody else have any reflections?
I'll just share what one of the life cycles in Judaism is a coming of age, bar bat mitzvah, 13-year-old, and we always center it on a service project. We refer to it as a mitzvah, which is actually obligatory to make a difference in the world. And even just asking these kids, have you ever done anything that, where you're making a contribution, helping somebody else out, or the earth, or animals, whatever it is? And invariably, their parents might have to encourage them to say, yeah, you did that. And I just simply say, well, how did it make you feel? and to a person, and I'm sure everybody that's on this in this wonderful group, it makes us feel good in a very genuine way where it's uplifting. It gives us meaning in our lives, and imagine if giving made you feel the opposite. So either, I'm not an evolutionary biologist, but there's something, I think, Barbara, that is baked into that, which, thank God.
Okay. If no one else has any questions, let me just ask the group one more time, because I think there was a lot of good discussion going on in all the groups. So is there anything else that you would like to ask our clergy or a reflection?
If you don't mind, I can add something very quickly as well.
Absolutely.
Since both the colleagues spoke, I feel like I have
You
to
have to do. I should have called you.
No, I actually don't have to, but I just had an idea that I think it's important just to mention it there. When we were born, we were all, I mean, to begin with, for us who believe in God, we believe that we are all in need of Him, and He's the sustainer. So for the believers, it is an automatic response, or it is embedded in our DNA to give, and we feel that. But also, even for a person who doesn't necessarily believe, just going through the life itself, having a mother, having a father, who they all depend since they are little children for their help, and as they grow and as they, it becomes an automatic also response as they grow up. And as they have money in their hands, to also give to those who are in need, because they have been there themselves. Mm-hmm. So just wanted to mention that. And I think it is in our DNA.
I like that thought. I wish it was. So, okay. I wish to thank our scholars for their presentations, which opens our understanding on how each faith discerns what true wealth is and how that wealth impacts our life of faith. It is this type of programming that helps dispel misinformation and helps build community and commonality. If you wish to donate to ISBA to continue this great programming, please access the donation form on their website. So I'm going to go into some upcoming events that are coming here that I'd like to have you mark on your calendar. On August 22nd, the ILM circles. Go ahead, what? The topic is Muslim Bosnians in North America. Presenter Mufti Siman. Check out the ISBA website for registration. On 9/11, let's see, we're going to have 9/11 is the multi-faith valley-wide food drive. A list of needed items are also on the website. And September 28th at 4:30 p.m., the Islam and Contemporary Dance Unexpected Convergences, presented by Professor Tim Winter. You can check on the Arizona State University website. The presentation will also be live streamed. Next quarter's topic is, how do we understand human nature? Is it human nature, or is it just an excuse? So that will be the name of the topic, and that's November 14th, 6 p.m. on Zoom. With the mixed emotions, I need to share that I'm resigning as a Tri-Faith discussion leader due to health concerns. And I wish to thank you, our clergy and participants, for your openness and passion for Tri-Faith discussion. If you know of anyone that has an interest to be the discussion coordinator, please call Azra at the ISBA. That's 480-946-0626, and let her know your interest. I'll also be available to help and give support. And thank you again for being such a great multi-faith community. I will miss you. I am going to ask the Reverend William Utke to lead us in closing prayer.
Before I do, Barb, I want to say thank you at this transition time for you, for the tremendous leadership you've provided, as well as so many others. But I know it takes time and dedication. I think I got my initial email from you 3-4 months ago, so I know how far ahead you've been working on these, if not further than that. So thank you. Can I take a point of privilege and ask Imam Faja if he'd share that story with us? That can we take that extra?
Absolutely. Let's do that because I wanted to hear that too.
If he's willing, I'd love. I'm waiting to hear the story that you left off the end of your presentation.
Thanks for bringing that up, Bill.
Yeah, it's definitely. First, I pray for your well-being, Barbara, and I wish you all the best. And I'm very appreciative for all that you have done during these years, and hopefully this continues in the future as well by having somebody who is similar to you, who can serve this group here. The story is it's not too long, but it does have some details. So I want to skip a lot of details and I'll go straight to the end of it, where Jesus is traveling with this companion of his, and then he asks Jesus to perform some miracles. And during the same time, this person kind of cheats him in his ration of his food, because he shares with him the food as they're traveling together, and he doesn't say anything to Jesus, and then he lies about it just for the sake of wealth or food or whatever you may consider that, just to sustain or to have extra, actually. So anyways, he goes, he wants to teach him a lesson, and there are some people who are seeing Jesus walking there together with his companion, and they're saying, he's saying, can you turn this into gold? And he said, I think it was like a small, not necessarily a hill, because that'd be huge, but something smaller than that, like a raisin, a place that was raised from the ground. And he prays to God to return that to turn that into gold. And all of a sudden, this companion of his departs from Jesus, and Jesus continues on his own. So during this time, he's preserving that, and he's making sure that he's taking that gold with him. And all of a sudden, there are some other people who are coming there, and they see that there is gold there. And he says, "This is mine." They said, "Well, if it's yours, we're going to kill you, and we're going to get the gold." And he says, "You know what? It's okay, guys, we can share this. I can have a share and you can have a share," and end of the story. And they decide that. And as they're talking, as they're staying there for some time, one group says that we're hungry, we need to get some food. So one goes, this group goes to get the food, and the other group there, saving the gold, they say, how about we plan, when they come, we murder them and we take the whole gold with us. And they said, okay, this is what we're going to do. And the other group as well, as they were coming back, they're also saying the same thing, as we go, we murder them. So all of a sudden, there was a war that took, not a war, but there was a fight that took place. There are some details that I don't want to go, but the end of the story is that they both of these groups, as they both planned individually to kill each other, they ended up one having no food, and the other one having no food and dying because of hunger, and the other one killing the others who were about to bring food. So and Jesus then, after that, he walks in front of that place where all of this took place, and gold is still there, and he has other companions now that are with him, and he tells them, this is the result, he says, of love for this materialistic world. He says how it turns people to fight with each other, and at the end, nobody's really inheriting that gold, but the gold is still there, but they're dead. They fought with each other, and that was pretty much the lesson behind that story. There is a reference for this in our books, in Imam Ghazali's writing. And by the way, Muslims, we do use a lot of teachings from Jesus, a lot of teachings from Moses, Abraham, and all of these other prophets. So thank you for listening to that. Appreciate that.
Thank you. I want to thank Imam Faja. I want to thank Rabbi Linder. I want to thank all of you again for being here. And I'm going to close by closing thought actually is going to be jumping outside all three of our traditions to offer a closing thought from a Buddhist blessing known as the Metta Sutta. So let us receive this blessing. May every creature abound in well-being and peace. May every living being, weak or strong, the long and the small, the short and the medium-sized, the mean and the great, may every living being, seen or unseen, those dwelling far off, those nearby, those already born, those waiting to be born, may all attain inward peace. Let no one deceive another. Let no one despise another in any situation. Let no one from a place of hatred wish evil to anyone at all. Just as a mother with her own life protects her own child from hurt, so within yourself, foster a limitless concern for every living creature. Display a heart of boundless love for all the world. In all its height and depth and broad extent, love unrestrained, without hate or enmity. Then as you stand or walk, sit or lie, until overcome by drowsiness, devote your mind entirely to this. It is known as living here, life divine.
Wow. Thank you so much, Reverend Utke. And to all of you, shalom, peace, and salam to you and your families until we meet again. Good night.